Ba ba da ba 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 da ba da 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 da. The Love Cats. Hello, everybody. We are at the tail end of January. Today is January 31st. And oddly enough, we are reviewing an X-Files episode all about January 1st. The X-Files Season 7 episode, Millennium. Of course, we did the X-Files pilot episode for our New Year's special this year. But now we're going to be doing the famous X-Files New Year's episode, Millennium. So Millennium is an episode that, a lot like the episode Existence, most people remember it by a very iconic scene at the end, and they kind of just forget about the rest of the episode, which I think is a shame, because Millennium is a lot like Existence. It's a pretty ballin' episode. It's pretty awesome. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And of course, we're going to talk about that famous scene at the end, aka the scene that almost made me an MSR shipper. Almost. So let's get right into it. Millennium is also a crossover episode with the other Chris Carter show, Millennium. And before we get into this review, I just want to state that I have watched exactly one episode of Millennium. And I did that when I was maybe 12 years old, so I don't remember much about it. So whatever opinions you have of Millennium, the show, I cannot weigh in on them because I have not watched enough of that show to form an educated opinion. However, what we're going to be talking about is the X-Files today, and but the tie-in this episode does have with Millennium is pretty fucking cool, so we'll talk about that. So the episode begins with a sketchy white dude in a funeral parlor. Gee, where have we seen that before? This episode has some pretty amazing callbacks to other X-Files, previous X-Files episodes, and of course the beginning, very much a callback to the episode Irresistible with Donnie Pfaster creeping around corpses. So there's this sketchy old white dude, and he's very creepily looking at this corpse of a man named Crouch. And he is a FBI agent, and he committed suicide. So his widow's there. The funeral home guy like walks up to her, and he's like giving her his quote condolences, and oh boy, is he ever a creep. So then the poor widow leaves. I feel so sorry for this woman. I wish we saw more of her. Like, she's looking at her husband's casket, and she's like, hey, this was some Christmas. You didn't even leave me a note. Like, that's so depressing. Anyway, this guy, the creep, the funeral home creep, he opens the casket, and it really makes me wonder, like, how long has this guy been dead, and was he embalmed? Because he kind of looks like a zombie already. So the funeral home creep, he starts undressing himself right in front of the fucking corpse. And it always makes me think, like, imagine someone walking in on that, and they're like, they see this guy stripping in front of a corpse. I mean, that's some necro stuff, but it ain't necromancing, all right? Ew, is all I have to say. So he takes the old Nokia phone and puts it in the corpse's hand. I do these Twitter, bleh, I can't talk today. These Twitter, X-Files rewatch threads, and it kind of helps me, like, get my thoughts in order for these videos. And one thing I put is, the scariest thing in this episode are the old Nokia phones. So, he puts an old Nokia phone in this corpse's hand, and the then of course the corpse is buried, and the funeral home creep is like sitting out in front of the graveyard, and he buried one phone with Crouch, this FBI agent, and then he has the other one in his hand, and it starts ringing, and you see the guy go out there with a shovel. This episode is pretty cool in taking like old superstitions surrounding like death and burial and what have you, and like giving it a new spin. Like this very much reminded me of the stories I heard when I was little about graves being equipped with like these pull ropes to like a bell above ground. So if a person was buried alive, they could ring the bell, and they would be like, "Oh shit, this is a live person. We better dig them up," because that was actually back in the day. That was a pretty common occurrence, horrifyingly enough. So I'm back on my soda drinking bullshit. I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper with a little baby shot of rum. And it looks like it's about to rain. So I might have to go inside at any moment. So the guy gets a call on his archaic Nokia phone, and we know like, hey, something's going on in that grave. You get the title sequence, and then we see Scully approaching a graveyard where she spends, I'd say, the majority of her life now. And she is accosted by the funeral home director. And he's like, hey, you people better get your facts straight. You're saying I buried somebody alive. You know, what the fuck? Scully gets this look on her face like, oh, Jesus Christ, I haven't even had my coffee this morning, and I have to deal with Mulder bullshit. You get this pretty cool shot of her, like, looking inside the grave, and then you see Mulder's face, and they're both, like, looking down at you. And that's pretty nice. That's some good cinematography. So she's like, Mulder, what the fuck? And he's like, it's necromancing, Scully. It's gotta be necromancing. I have so much to say about this, and I'll get to it. Oh my fucking God. So they go look at the gravestone. There's like handprints of the dead guy, Crouch, that was buried. But then there's like shovel marks of like the funeral home creep digging him up. So, Mulder is giving his spiel to Scully, and then he's like, okay, Scully, let me have it with your skepticism. So salty. And Scully's like, oh no, I agree. This is another point I want to make. In this episode, you really see Scully, like, recognizing her role in the story as the true believer. I've always said that Mulder is the true skeptic of the group, and Scully is the true believer of the group. And it's always been that way. It's just taken Scully a while to recognize that. I'll talk about that more, too. So, but then Scully's like, hey, you had me all the way up to the dead man clawing his way out. And she's like, he obviously had help. Of course, Scully's right. She's always right. So you hear that, Mulder stands? Scully's always right. So then you see FBI headquarters, and I love it when you see Mr. Skinner's office, and I love it when Mr. Skinner calls these other agents into his office. They act like Mulder is that insane uncle you only see at Christmas. And then Mr. Skinner gets embarrassed when Mulder like gives his whole necromancing spiel on this case. Like, Mr. Skinner, you knew he was gonna say this. Why are you acting so peeved, man? Like, he's like, he's embarrassing. My son's embarrassing me in front of my FBI friends. So, Mulder and Scully give their spiel. The other agents are like, yeah, okay, spooky boy, whatever, man. Like, I also love how in the beginning of the series, like in season 1 and season 2, the other agents were like, spooky Mulder's crazy, oh my God. And now the other FBI agents, when they come into Mr. Skinner's office, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's hear what crazy Mulder's got to say, I guess. Like, they've become desensitized to it. So, What is wrong with you? Huh? My cat is just a grunt butt today. So, Skinner calls Mulder and Scully aside. He's like, hey, take a look at this. It's an Ouroboros. Oh, do you like my choker? My sister-in-law made it for me as a belated Christmas gift, and I'm very pleased with it. It's very beautiful. I love it very much. And then there's this little grunt butt right there. So, the Ouroboros in this episode is a symbol for the Millennium group, which was this group of dudes in the FBI, and they started this cult that was like based on like Judeo-Christian end times mythology, the Book of Revelations, what have you. And they believe the apocalypse will come about at the Millennium in the year 2000. So, a couple things. If the Ouroboros, the snake biting its own tail, that symbol, if that sounds familiar, it was the major plot point of the X-Files episode Never Again. Scully got a tattoo of it on her lower back, and it was a whole fucking thing. It's not even mentioned. Like, it would have been an amazing callback if Scully would have been like, and I get it, maybe she's embarrassed about it, it didn't lead to a lot of grief for her, but like, if she could have said something or have been like, oh yeah, like I know about this, like just even that, just her acknowledging that. But no, they don't even mention it because this show says fuck you to continuity. Seriously, I mean, like, I would be amazed if the show did do that. So the Skinner tells his agents like investigate, and then he's like 3 more FBI agents committed suicide, and this is in line with what the Millennium Group believes and what have you. And he's like, Mr. Skinner says, quote, investigate these cases, but keep a low profile. And I'm like, Mr. Skinner, have you met Agent Mulder? Like, subtlety and tact is something this guy he does not know what they are, okay? So don't get your hopes up, Mr. Skinner, as far as Mulder keeping a low profile. So, they go to see Frank Black. Frank Black, aka the sketchiest bastard I actually like. Frank Black is the main character of the other Chris Carter show, Millennium. And as far as knowing anything about him outside of this episode, I don't. What I see in this episode, I fucking love. All right, Frank Black, that's my man. That's what I say. They're walking into this psychiatric ward. There's a really cute moment where Mulder sees one of the patients, this man with a very long beard, and he says, hey, how's it going? Like, that's kind of cute. I like that. They're walking in there. They're talking about Frank Black, and Mulder's like, oh, he's a brilliant profiler and single-minded. And then Scully's like, oh, yeah, sounds familiar, you know, talking about Mulder. It's really cute how the show keeps comparing Mulder to actual good FBI agents. Because Mulder's the shittiest FBI agent to ever FBI. So they go and see Frank Black. And he's watching this football game between the Fighting Irish and the Golden Eagles. And he very much tells the FBI agents, he's like, look, whatever connections I had with the Millennium Group, they're over. I'm putting that behind me. And then Mulder throws a goddamn hissy fit. He's like, you weren't what I was expecting. And then he like ruins the guy's football game by telling him who wins. This is I guess a pre-recorded football game. And I'm like, whoa, Mulder gives off vibes like he has a crush on Frank Black. Um, like Mulder definitely has this thing for older men who are sketchy and most definitely hiding something and going to give him the runaround. Like that is Mulder's kink. All right, I'm sorry. Like Mulder loves the sugar daddies. All right, and he has that towards Frank Black. Frank Black does not want to end up like Deep Throat or Mr. X, so he's like, "Hey man, I want nothing to do with you." That's interesting. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And Mulder throws a goddamn hissy fit and runs away. So then you see funeral home creep man, who's digging up these dead people. The dead body in the back of his truck is getting kind of frisky now. And he's shuffling around. One thing I want to say, I wish the X-Files had leaned into the zombie necromancy storylines. They're so fucking good. I love zombies. And that's the reason why, and also werewolves. Just like give me all the werewolves. Zombies and werewolves are my two favorite monsters. Because they're cute. I just think they're adorable. So, and of course the X-Files just went with the convoluted alien shit that wasn't interesting anyway. So, the guy, gets a flat tire. He's changing it. The state trooper comes up and he's like, "Hey, let me give you a hand." Whenever someone stops to help someone with a flat tire in the X-Files, like nothing good happens. It's almost like the show is trying to give off some anti-Good Samaritan propaganda. So the state trooper's like, "Oh, at least I can like give you a flashlight so you can see." And then he hears the corpse shuffling around the back. State trooper goes around back. The corpse pops out and eats him. The sound effect of the zombie eating people in this episode is very satisfying. It reminds me of the sound effect in Wreck-It Ralph when the evil robotic bugs were like eating people. It sounds like they're like eating a hamburger. They're just like nom 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 nom. And I'm like, "Oh, this is making me hungry. I wanna go get some Wendy's after this or something." So the ow, now stop. My cat is just you are being a butthole today, aren't you? So Mulder and Scully come to this crime scene and they find the poor state trooper. His lips are stapled shut and he has salt like stuffed in his mouth. There's also a scripture in his mouth. Like that's freaky as hell. And the scripture is Revelations 1:18. Also, when Mulder reads it, one of the other state police just immediately pipes up and he's like, "Book of Revelations 1:18." And I'm like, this, as someone who was forced to recite Bible memory verses for 12 years of her life, this episode is triggering for another reason entirely. Like when that guy rattled off that memory verse, I was like, I felt that, man. I felt that. So they go back to see Frank Black and they're like, "What the fuck?" Like they're killing again. So Frank Black is like, "Look, I want nothing to do with you people. I'm trying to get my life back on track, you know." And then Scully comes in and she says, "I think I know why you don't want to help us, and it's because of your daughter." He's trying to get his custody of his daughter. Again, this would have been an excellent chance for Scully and Frank to bond over the shared experience. That's what Scully was going through with her daughter Emily. this would have been an excellent chance to explore that. Of course, the show doesn't, because Emily is completely forgotten about. Fuck me. That's totally how child loss works, right? Scully never even mentions this kid again. So that sucks. Again, like, continuity, we don't know her. That's what the X-Files says. But Gillian's portrayal, Gillian's acting during this moment, you see it go through Scully's mind. She's like, this is what I went through. And you see the compassion she has for Frank Black, you know, in this moment, because she went through this similar circumstance. But Mulder, asshole, gon' asshole. Mulder the asshole, gon' asshole. And he's like, oh, but you can still help us out, right? And I'm like, Mulder, this guy's trying to get his life together and get custody of his kid. You know, could you fucking leave him alone? So, Frank, he's like, oh, nobody will know. We'll just talk. Nobody will know. Frank Black is like, hey, I know what happens to people who help you guys. They end up in a body bag. So, Frank Black finally agrees to help them. And he's telling them about the Millennium group. And there were these people, these FBI agents within the Millennium group, and they thought they could bring about the end times by committing suicide and being brought back to life via necromancy. And that is the way the apocalypse, the day of judgment, would come. As these 4 FBI agents raised from the dead, becoming the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And then raising the rest of the dead in like this huge Resident Evil type scenario. So Mulder believes this. He believes Frank Black, hook, line, and sinker. The camera pans on Scully, and you almost want it to start playing the theme from Curb Your Enthusiasm, the dun 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 dun, but it does not, because in episodes like Revelations and All Souls, and Orison, Scully tells Mulder these things, like word for word what Frank Black is telling him. And Scully and Mulder immediately dismisses it. He's like, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen. I refuse to believe this. Frank Black tells him it. He eats it like a cookie. He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Now, if Frank Black had told Mulder these things and Mulder had been like, I don't believe this, but obviously this guy who's doing this does, that would have been better. And maybe Frank Black and Scully could have talked about the apocalyptic side of this case. And Scully would have been like, yes, I have seen things and had visions of this, and I believe it. That would have been rad. But for Mulder to just accept it, it pisses me the fuck off. Like, I don't even think it's OOC for Mulder. I think it's part of his character. Like, you see, Miracle Man is an X-Files episode that I think is, like, grossly underrated. I cannot wait to review that episode. And Samuel in Miracle Man tells Mulder, he doesn't even give Mulder evidence. He's just like, yeah, this could be happening. And Mulder's like, absolutely, hallelujah. He's like Nick Wilde in Zootopia. He's like, well, hallelujah, yes, this is going on. Scully gets these precognitive visions of apocalyptic end-time scenarios, and like Mulder immediately dismisses her, but especially in an episode like Revelations and All Souls, like, Scully has physical evidence of that. She has as much, probably more evidence than Frank Black has. Then he's telling Mulder these things, or hell, she has much more evidence than Samuel did in Miracle Man, and Mulder immediately writes her off. So this is probably the most intriguing and frustrating part of Mulder's character is how he will not believe Scully in these types of situations, but he will blindly trust anyone else that says these things. And a lot of people say, well, Mulder has a problem with like organized religion and faith. I don't think so. Because if he did, he would dismiss Samuel and he would dismiss Frank Black, like, point blank. Or at least make the argument that, like, these people believe this, but I think it's crazy. You know, stop biting me. Why do you always have to bite me when I do these videos? Why? You don't have to. My cat is just, gosh, she's so grumpy. So, but with Scully, he immediately dismisses that. Now, I was on a website, and this was some years ago, and it was about telling the personality types of the X-Men. And they were talking about Cyclops. And I don't know what you know about the X-Men comics, not the X-Men movies. Cyclops is probably one of my favorite characters in the comics. And they were talking about his personality type, and they were saying that Cyclops loves routines, like day-to-day routines, in the same way he values relationships. That was his personality type. And I think Mulder has some of that too. He has a codependency with Scully, and he relies on her skepticism to give his life some kind of stability. And we've seen this with Mulder before. Like, he'll tell himself these stories, whether they're true or not, and they help him make sense of the universe and what's going on. Like, that's Mulder's religion, telling himself these stories. And Scully is very much a part of that, like her questioning that, and then him, in his mind at least, proving her wrong. That gives some stability to his world. And I'm not hating on Mulder for that. I think that's very relatable. I think people want to do that. But I think Mulder's going about this in an unhealthy way. Like, instead of addressing this trauma he's had since he was a child, he makes up these stories. He has this codependent relationship with Scully in order to, you know, do that. And then he cannot stand for Scully to be the believer because it throws that stability into question. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons he's always gaslighting her in these situations. And for those of you who are saying, oh, Scully's a hypocrite, you know, like, she's such a skeptic, and she's always deriding Mulder on his beliefs. First of all, she doesn't. Okay. Scully might not believe what Mulder believes, but tell me the one time she did not meet Mulder halfway and, like, say, I'm going to, like, I don't believe you, but I'm going to try to see things from your point of view. You know how many times Mulder did that with Scully's scientific theories? That's how many. There's this old, the movie, No Country for Old Men, which is one of my favorite movies. There's an old lady, and she does that. She says, that's how many. And I love that woman. She's amazing. So another thing is, I have a lot of theories as to why Mulder acts this way, and he gaslights Scully in these situations. And I really want to talk more about it when I review the episode, Revelations, which is my favorite X-Files episode of all time. But that will be discussed at a later date. Also, I do want to point this out. It's almost a sexist thing. Like, Mulder immediately believes someone like Frank Black or Samuel in Miracle Man, but people like Scully, Melissa Scully, Agent Reyes, he's like, that's bullshit. And I mean, I just get severe sexist vibes from that. But, oh, Mulder's the greatest feminist of all time, don't forget. People that say Mulder is a feminist, I'm like, are we watching the same fucking show? So they have this long talk with Frank Black. Mulder pretty much calls him daddy. And so he's giving this profile on this guy, and he's like, yeah, this guy is like performing necromancy on these people. So Scully's gonna go to the morgue, check out this dead state trooper, and then Mulder's going to follow the profile and try to track down this guy's house. Scully goes to the morgue. The mortician that's like doing the autopsy on the state trooper, she's super cool. I love her. Wish we'd seen more of her. She's she finds salt in the guy's mouth, and the mortician acts annoyed. She's like, here these fuckers putting salt in the corpse's mouth again. Oh me. Scully calls her. She's like, look, don't remove the staples from this motherfucker's mouth. And of course the woman does. And this dead state trooper pops up and he attacks her. He thankfully does not kill her. And then Scully shows up with her gun. She shoots at the corpse. It doesn't stop it. Now quit. If you can't behave yourself, you can't sit here. She shoots at the corpse. It does not stop the corpse. And then the funeral home creep comes out and shoots the corpse in the head. Later on, Scully's like, he saved my life and I don't know why. And I'm like, I don't know why either. It's never fucking explained. It's like the Ouroboros storyline. Like, it's completely dropped. Like, that plot point is dropped like a hot potato. So the corpse attacks Scully. You see Skinner come in. It's really cute how the show, like, Skinner goes up to this corpse and, like, pulls it aside, and you see, like, this corpse with red hair. And I'm like, show, that's precious. You really thought you would, like, say that, like, you really thought you'd have us going that Scully would die at the beginning of season 7. That's adorable show. So, Skinner comes up to Scully and he, like, is checking her wounds. He's, like, patting her on the shoulder. He's like, how you doing? And I'm like, aw, that's my dad. That's him. There's my dad. So, Scully tells him, she's like, there was this guy, he was dead, and he attacked me. I can't explain it, but it fucking happened. So, I'm thinking of the episode Bad Law, and Scully's like, in season 8, Scully fully assumes her role as the show's true believer. And she's telling Doggett, like, this is what Mulder would have done. And I always say, like, oh, baby, no. Like, you had this inside of you all along. Like, maybe meeting Mulder was the catalyst for you accepting not only your role as the story's true believer, but accepting these precognitive powers you have. But to say, like, oh, Scully's just assuming Mulder's role, I don't think that's true. Like, Scully was always the true believer. But it took her a while. It took her a minute to, like, my cat's hair is, like, all over the place, to accept that part of herself. Ooh, thirsty. And another thing is this. I don't know where people get off on saying, like, Scully is this willfully ignorant bore. When Scully has balls to the walls scientific evidence, especially in this point in the series, she will believe it. This is evidence. She saw it with her own eyes. She has a body. She's believing it. It was the same way in Revelations and All Souls. She had physical evidence. And not just that, she was having visions that were coming from within herself, and she instinctively believed him. Like, that's my girl. All right. And that's what's going on here. She's like, I have the evidence. I have seen it with my own eyes. I have scientific proof. I'm believing this. And that's a part of Scully's character that I think people don't recognize enough. Like, yeah, she'll believe it if the evidence is there. In Fresh Bones, the evidence was fucking there, and she believed it. Like, she was like, yes, people can seem dead, and they're supposedly brought back to life. So, yeah, it's not a leap that she's accepting this. Skinner's like, hey, your boyfriend, I can't get him on the phone. Again, the look on Scully's face, she's like, oh, great. Haven't even had my coffee this morning. Gotta go sort out Mulder bullshit. Mulder drives up to this guy's house. He can't get a cell phone signal. He goes inside the home of what he knows is a murderer necromancer, and he's like, la-di-da, just gonna jump this fence. Fox Mulder, you fucking idiot. Very much reminds me of the scene in Kill Switch where he's like, I'm approaching this place that I know has killed people, and I'm just like, doo-doo-doo, here I go, you know? What a fucking dumbass. So, he goes in, and wouldn't you know it, he's jumped by zombies. Mulder gets some salt to make a protective circle around himself. And when I was watching this, when I was 14 years old, I was like, Scully's gonna swoop in and save him, which she does at the end. But I was like, oh, wow, look at Mulder, like, doing stuff. Good job, buddy. He makes a protective circle. The zombie still bites his arm. So I guess the zombification is not passed on through bite. Would have been pretty fucking rad if it was. So, then, Scully goes to Frank Black. She's like, I can't find my boyfriend. Frank Black pretty much tells her, like, look, sister, I'm not your dad. Like, and I'm certainly not Mulder's sugar daddy. Please respectfully fuck off. So Scully's like, look, I know you have something to do with this Millennium group. You're not telling me what's going on. You better fucking tell me. So he tells her, like, I'm sorry. And Scully's like, fuck you. And she walks off. But Frank Black goes and, Frank Black goes to save Mulder's ass, pretty much. So Frank Black, first of all, is an intensely more interesting character than Fox Mulder. After rewatching this episode, I was like, hell yeah, I want to watch Millennium. Like, this is fucking cool. Like, he's an intensely more interesting character than Mulder. And I think that's because of his character arc. Like, just what we see from this episode, like, he says, he's like, I was obsessed with conspiracies and the end of the world. People said I was an unfit father, and that's why they took my kid away from me. And he's like, and they were right. And he's saying this to Mulder in this scene. And at first I said, like, this is foreshadowing as to what Mulder will become, like this disgraced, incarcerated FBI agent. But now I'm thinking Frank Black is what I wanted for Mulder's character arc. Like, Frank Black believes that his obsession is what not only led to his downfall, but what ended up hurting the people he loves the most. That's something I wanted Mulder to do. And it's something he never does. Like, Mulder never acknowledges that his obsession has hurt the people he loves around him. Scully is the one he hurt the most. And the show very much sets it up. Like, that's going to be his character arc. He's going to say, like, I've been selfish. My obsession, I've started to value it over the people I love, and this is wrong, and I need to try to make a change. You see that at the end of season 4 with Scully's cancer. And then the first episode, it's the second episode, the third episode of season 5 in Detour, he's like right back on his bullshit. Didn't change him at all. And this is the time when I make the disclaimer of season 11 Mulder, people saying like, oh, he's so sweet. He always thinks about Scully. Like, yeah, because he's afraid of losing her and he wants to get his girlfriend back. Don't think Mulder. Don't tell me Mulder's going to change. He hasn't changed in, 30 fucking years? Why are you growling? You are just the grumpiest baby today, aren't you? So, my cat purrs when she's mean. Like, does your cat do that? Leave me a comment. My cat purrs when she's like being mean to the other cats. She's such a little queen bee. She's such a little boss. So, yes, you're the alpha. I know you're the alpha. Yes, I do. So, this was the character arc I wanted Mulder to have. And that's what makes Frank Black so fascinating and an intensely more interesting character than Mulder, because he has gone through this. He's been like, I had this obsession, it ruined my life, it ruined the lives of the people I love, and I'm going to change. And I really like that. I really like how I really like how he goes through that. Like, it's very mature and good writing. And it's something that never happens to Mulder, because Mulder has no character development, and that's what makes him such a sucky character. So Frank Black goes out there to save Mulder's ass. And Frank Black is a whole goddamn unit. Like, that's my man. That's my man. So he goes out there, he meets Funeral Home Creep. Funeral Home Creep thinks he's coming to be the fourth guy in this Millennium Pack, because the state trooper shot the Crouch guy in the head, and took him out of the game. If you shoot these zombies in the head, like, that's what takes them out. So Mulder goes in the basement. The Funeral Home Creep locks him down there. Never tries to even get back up. Best FBI agent, Fox Mulder. Frank Black goes down there. He puts a gun on the Funeral Home Creep. He's like, haha, it's a setup, bitch. He goes down there. It would have been cool again to see Mulder, like, if he had this character arc that Frank Black had, to use his knowledge of what he formerly believed in, or what was his former obsession, to, like, do good and to make things right. That would have been amazing. But of course, Fox Mulder has no character development, etc., etc. Frank Black goes down there. Mulder standing in his little sadness circle of sadness, like on Inside Out. He's got his tie tied around his arm. I'm really amazed Mulder knows how to make a tourniquet. That really surprised me. So it's starting to rain very heavily. I gotta wrap this up. So Frank Black throws a flare. He sees the zombies. He, like, starts shooting them like a goddamn boss. But there's one more zombie and we're out of rounds. And Scully comes in there and goes full on fucking Resident Evil on these zombies' asses. I always wanted to see Scully in, like, this post-apocalyptic awesome mom role, like fucking Sarah Connor or Ellen from Alien. Ellen Ripley from Alien. That would have been fucking rad. Yeah. That's one thing about the revival. Like, it sucks, but Scully's hot. So it's got that going for it. So I watch it with the sound turned down to see how hot Scully is. So Scully comes in there, she shoots those motherfuckers. She's like, you're not gonna get my man. And then the next scene, you see Frank Black, and his daughter comes running in. And it's the kid from Seventh Heaven. Some of you little babies, there was this pretty terrible show called Seventh Heaven. It sucked. But this kid is on Seventh Heaven, and she's pretty fucking cute. So again, you see Scully, like, looking at Frank and his daughter, and again, this would have been a wonderful moment for her to say, like, yeah, like, this could have been me and Emily, this could have been me and my daughter. But again, Gillian's acting is very much like, you see that in Scully's face. Like, yeah, I went through this. This is what I wanted, and what was taken away from me. That would have been a beautiful bonding moment between Frank Black and Scully, and I fucking love Frank Black. Anyway, Mulder comes in. He has a hurty arm where the zombie bit him. They see you also see Octavia Spencer for a hot second in this episode. I think she has, like, 2 lines. And she's even called Octavia. Like, I wanted in the end credits, instead of it saying, like, Octavia Spencer as the nurse, it says Octavia Spencer as herself, because that's what she's doing. She's playing herself. Octavia Spencer, one of my favorite actresses. God bless that woman. From Montgomery, too. That's pretty awesome. Right up the road from us. So, Another person playing themselves is Dick fucking Clark. When I see Dick Clark, it brings a tear to my eye. Great memories of watching that king count down the new year. Anyway, Dick Clark's on TV. He's watching the ball drop. Such good memories. Quit! What is wrong with you? Why are you such a bee today? So, Dick Clark's counting it down. Scully looks at Frank and she's like, hey, don't you want to see the Millennium come in? Like, this was the consuming force of your life. And I love the way Frank Black, like, looks at his kid and he's like, no. He says, I just want to go home. Again, why couldn't fucking Fox Mulder have this character arc? It would have been fucking amazing. Old Man Mulder. Like, God, yes. And the Old Man Mulder we got in the revival fucking sucks. Like, all things with the revival. So, Frank Black dips with his kid, and Mulder and Scully watch the ball drop. And Dick Clark is saying, like, hey, this is the new Millennium. Like, find someone you love and smooch him up, man. And this is the scene most people remember this episode by, and it's Mulder and Scully's first kiss. And it is a fucking good kiss. Rating the MSR kisses, I'm gonna put this at the top. It's fucking good. They both believe the world's going to end. It's giving off some heavy Rogue and Gambit from X-Men kissing before the end of the world vibes. They're like, hell, we don't know if we're going to be alive in the next minute, so let's smooch it up. It's good. It's really fucking good. I even put it before the I Want to Believe kiss. Like, it's just, God. Mulder is looking at the ball dropping, and he's looking at Scully. He's looking over at Scully as the ball drops. She's looking at the TV. She's not looking at him. And he kind of thinks he's going to take her by surprise with this smooch. And he doesn't. He turns to her and she leans into it. And it is a long and fucking passionate kiss. You know, Octavia Spencer and the other nurses are like looking through the window like, oh, fuck, they gonna make a baby tonight. So, God, Scully doesn't want to let go of him. She doesn't want to break the kiss. Mulder breaks the fucking kiss. Scully is fucking thirsty, okay? He's kissing her top lip. It's fucking hot. And this scene almost made me an MSR shipper. Almost. It didn't, but it almost did. And then Mulder puts his arm around Scully and he's like, Happy New Year, Scully. And she's like, Happy New Year, Mulder. And they walk out to go make their superpowered alien baby William. And you know what? People say Scully was pregnant for fucking 14 months. So I can say they made William after this episode. Fuck you guys. This is when William Scully got made. Dick Clark, In Time Cults, and Octavia Spencer were the catalyst for William Scully, the best little alien douchebag to be born. All right, and that's Millennium. I forgot how fucking fun this episode is. Like I said, wish the X-Files had leaned more into the necromancing storylines. If you're not into MSR, if you're not into the romance aspect of the X-Files, if you're not into conspiracy shit, watch this episode because it is a fucking good zombie story. It's very self-contained. You don't really have to know much about the show Millennium, obviously, to enjoy it, like I did. Just give it a watch. It's amazing. And it's very self-contained. It very much reminds me of an episode of like the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits. Yeah, that's Millennium. And next week we get to review the first part of the 1998 X-Files movie, Fight the Future, and I'm so fucking excited for it. Leave me a comment. What do you think about Millennium? What do you think about Fight the Future? We're just gonna have a fucking good time on our Valentine's Day episode next week. and it'll turn into 2 episodes. We will review Fight the Future Part 1 next week, and the week after that we will review Fight the Future Part 2. And after that I have some other plans, not Valentine's Day plans, but it's going to be fun. Have a great day. I love you, and have a great Valentine's Day, or have a great just day. If you don't celebrate Valentine's Day, just have a great day. I love you. Best to you.